Witches, fairies, demons, ghosts. Yes, the works of William Shakespeare are packed with the supernatural, the fantastic. So is the modern romance industry. Romantasy, a portmanteau of romance and fantasy, is all the rage right now, dominating the market of the world's most popular fiction genre, if you don't count a particular sports romance recently featured on HBO. What could be better? Mix a little romantasy with Shakespeare? I think so. The United States' most popular playwright, besides Shakespeare himself, Lauren Gunderson, thought so. The result, a modern retelling of a wildly popular Shakespeare comedy set in the world of romantasy audiobooks. Welcome to Forward Theater and our introduction to the rolling world premiere of Lady Disdain by Lauren Gunderson. I'm Marcella Kearns, Artistic Associate at Forward, and I will be your guide to this love letter to Shakespeare, to romance, to fantasy, and to what's real in the end. First, some basics about the play. If you don't know the story of Much Ado About Nothing, let's start there. William Shakespeare penned the play sometime between 1598 and 1599. By the time the first quarto edition, singular copy edition of the play was printed in 1600, it had already been performed several times, so it has a very long history of success on the stage. One of his most popular comedies to this day, the play centers around the travails and triumphs of two sets of lovers, an older, wiser couple named Beatrice and Benedick, who have a history with each other that is not quite defined, and a younger couple who fall for each other at first glance, Hero and Claudio. Hero and Claudio are given blessing to marry, but Claudio shames and abandons her at the altar when a false story that she has been false is poured into his ear by his commander's brother, Don John. With the unlikely help of the local watch, the truth comes to light and they are reunited at the end of the play. Meanwhile, Benedick and Beatrice resist and poke at each other so ferociously that it's clear to everyone else in the play that they're made for each other. Their friends play matchmaker and trick them into thinking they're absolutely expiring for the other's love. In the very aftermath of Hero and Claudio's aborted wedding, they put aside their pride and prejudices in order to admit the truth of their affections. Then they get to work to help Hero back to a happy ending. I mentioned Pride and Prejudice specifically. Beatrice and Benedick, who also had a prototype in an earlier play of Shakespeare's, Love's Labour's Lost, are a real model for witty, wisecracking, holding romance at arm's length pairs of humans made for each other. From Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy to our 20th century sitcoms, Sam and Diane, you really can't throw a pencil in a bookstore without hitting the trope of the sparring couple in any kind of media. A flash forward to Shakespeare fan Gunderson, who, like many modern romance and Shakespeare fans, loves Benedick and Beatrice and finds the story of Hero and Claudio ultimately dissatisfying. Whether it's the feeling that Hero forgives too easily or that Claudio doesn't make up for the wrong he does her, and quite to the level at which we'd like, it's the plot point with which every modern audience member tussles, especially those who are female identifying. Lauren had an idea about how it might play out now, wrote a draft, and the rest is history. Lady Disdain has had 2 workshops and is now enjoying a rolling world premiere with Forward Theater this month and Oslo Rep in Sarasota in June. As I mentioned, however, the play's not merely a rehash of Shakespeare's plot. It's very close, but not quite. Gunderson really dips generously into the world of Romancelandia to pen, as I mentioned earlier, a love letter to the genre, to point out how foundational the work of women is to literature itself, female writers, and thereby to really question our own prejudice when it comes to spicy fiction. Romance may not be your jam, but there's no questioning its influence in entertainment and on the economy. The title of the play itself comes from an exchange between Ben and Bea in Shakespeare's play and refers, indeed, actually specifically, to Beatrice. Benedick says, "What, my dear Lady Disdain, are you yet living?" And Beatrice responds, "Is it possible Disdain should die while she hath such meat food to feed it as Signor Benedick?" As the Folger Shakespeare Library attests, a poem in the preface of a 1640 edition of Shakespeare's sonnets declares, "Let but Beatrice and Benedick be seen, lo, in a trice, the cockpit, the galleries, boxes are all full." There's no getting around them. A little bit about the playwright. Lauren Gunderson has appeared on Theater Communication Group's list of the most produced playwrights in the United States 3 or 4 times, depending on how you count. The very latest with this 2025-2026 season. She has 24 productions being produced around the country this season. Notably, this popular list doesn't include Shakespeare because he'd top all of the lists, but he's in good company with her. She's made a career of writing stories amplifying women in science, art, and literature, fictional or otherwise. Some literature adjacent examples from this season include her new adaptation of Little Women, holiday productions centered around characters from the Jane Austen canon, and A Room in the Castle, a retelling of Hamlet from the female character's point of view. Lauren is a favorite forward collaborator. We have produced her plays Silent Sky and I and You, premiered Artemisia a few seasons ago, and filled the Playhouse for a reading of Natural Shocks, a nationwide collaboration to read the play in response to gun and domestic violence. In fact, actually, I and You has been featured in the news recently as a new musical adaptation has opened at the McCarter Theater Center. Lauren is originally from Atlanta, Georgia, where she studied Southern literature and drama at Emory University. She earned an MFA in dramatic writing from the Tisch School in New York. She is a 2-time winner of the Steinberg ATCA New Play Award for I and You and the Book of Will, which is also about Shakespeare after his death, the creation of the folio. And she's also the winner of Distinguished Achievement in Theater Award, Lanford Wilson Award, Otis Guernsey New Voices Award. She's a finalist for the Susan Smith Blackbird Prize, Weisberger Award, John Gassner Award for Playwriting, and a recipient of the Mellon Foundation's residency with Marin Theater Company. The list goes on and on. She is a board member of the Playwrights Foundation. She lives at present with her sons in London, although she has made the hop across the Atlantic to check on a few projects, including this one during its opening week. So, why was Lady Disdain selected for this season? Jen Puffgray, our artistic director, says there are some playwrights whose rhythm, vibe, dialogue just sings when you read it on the page. To her, Lauren Gunderson is one of those playwrights. She was with us a few years ago when we developed Artemisia, which contained some really deliciously romantic scenes. While she was here, she and Jen had a lot of conversations about how they wish there were more good romance on stage, especially romance for characters who weren't quite in the ingenue stage of their lives. About 6 months later, she sent Jen a script saying it was a piece she just wanted to do and felt like it might be for forward. At the time, Jen was in rehearsal. She started to read the script with the intent to finish it the next day. She was so tired, but of course, she ended up reading the whole thing. Immediately, she sent an email saying, "Anything I can do to help you, I am all in." And not only has Jen been an advocate for the play with our advisory company in choosing to perform it, she's also directing this production. Her goal, she said at first rehearsal, is if we all do our jobs really, really well, the audience will feel as comforted and seen as you feel when you read a really, really good romance novel. Lady Disdain is one of Forward's entries this year into the second round of World Premiere Wisconsin, a statewide festival of premiere plays and musicals happening over the course of 2026. Additional offerings will include our upcoming Wisconsin Writes New Play Development Festival in May and our first production next season, Steady She Goes by Erica Berman, in September. But side note, we encourage you to check out any production or reading you see with that World Premiere Wisconsin logo attached. There are offerings happening all over, most centered around the Madison area, the Milwaukee area, and up in Door County. So check it out. So, why a romance in particular, besides that story I just shared? Beyond their timely conversation about what an audience really may be hankering, or dare I say, yeah, I'm going to say it, thirsting for, Forward has been trying on some different genres lately. We dipped into horror with Feeding Beatrice. Last year, we played with mystery and Murder Girl. Next season, we'll be trying out an intellectual espionage thriller with Dakar 2000. We've tread romance before, love stories before, from love stories to Outside Mullingar, but not so boldly as this romance about romances. You'll hear more from characters in the play waxing eloquent about the genre, but for the moment, I'd like you to hear from a fan. Thanks to a fan and fellow theater maker, Ana Perez-Krikorian, who summed up how attractive this literature can be. I thought she put it the best, so I'd like to share it. She says, I think the romance genre is just a wonderful, safe space, especially for women. It's a place where you can get romantic catharsis through a good HEA. More on that later. Explore different cultures and parts of history, Austen and the Brontes, as well as Bridgerton, or explore kinks or darker themes through the safety of fiction. Romance also centers emotion and the power of connection. And in the world that is so disconnected and lonely, it's wonderful to have a good romance to escape into. The history of women writing romance as a way of taking control of the narrative is something I could do a whole separate dissertation on as well. Thanks, Annika, for your words and your thoughts. More, again, on HEA and on Bridgerton to come. But meanwhile, I'd like to introduce our design and creative team. First, our acting company, actually. Colleen Madden and David Daniel play Beatrice and Ben, our Beatrice and Benedick, for this modern adaptation. For those who are long-standing fans of American Players Theater, this pairing reunites Colleen and Dee Dee after their turn as the two famous lovers in a production of Much Ado About Nothing there in 2014. Core company members at APT, Colleen and Dee Dee also act and actually teach, too, around the state. Colleen is an advisory company member at Forward and was last seen in summer 1976. Dee Dee returns to the Forward stage after such really heart-piercing productions as Outside Mullingar and Every Brilliant Thing. The inside scoop? He loves romance, loves it so much that he's written a romantic farce that will be featured as one of our play readings in Wisconsin Writes this May. So don't forget to come back and see that. Phoebe Gonzalez and Ronald Roman Melendez play Hannah and Claudio, our hero and Claudia analogs. Phoebe is also a core company member at APT, and Ron has often appeared on stage there as well. Phoebe was last seen in 44 plays for America's First Ladies at Forward during the pandemic era, and will play Mrs. Manningham in this fall's production of Gaslight. Ron was last seen in Clyde's. Elise Dickerson is this year's Colleen Burns Award winner. This award was created in the memory of Colleen Burns, who was a staple on Madison stages since 1974 and one of the founders of Forward. In her memory, it underwrites the salary of one actress a season and celebrates the spirit of joy that Colleen brought. Elise is returning to the Forward stage after having last been seen in The Garbologists. Rounding out the cast, Matt Daniels plays our Don Pedro parallel, Danny, an ambitious audiobook business mind who decides to pair up Beatrice and Ben as the key voices in a fateful gig. Matt was last seen at Forward in The Amateurs, our first production back in person after the pandemic shutdown. He'll also be back in the fall for our world premiere of Steady She Goes. To our design team. Scenic designer Steve Barnes has created a multi-level design that accommodates Lauren's call for multiple locations and the need to isolate them from scene to scene. This one he shared at first rehearsal was tough to work out given the many spaces that we had to see. We need to see two recording booths, a control booth, a break room with a kitchen, along with personal areas. Um, the vibes, he said, we wanted to create a space that felt comfortable and kind of cool. It's set in Chicago, so we looked at converted warehouse spaces, old brick walls and beams mixed with modern things inside. We had need for soundproofing in booths, so we gravitated towards the image of crushed velvet wall panels and draperies, and this gave us a more romantic feel as well. A significant inspiration beyond the need to split areas on the stage and cover playhouse sightlines, the traditional Shakespearean stage, which is malleable, convertible, um, open to a difference in location. Steve's design for the Playhouse relies in part upon a fellow forward veteran lighting designer Greg Hoffman. Greg said at first rehearsal, lighting is always extremely boring, but I'm excited to work on this one. um, his plans, I think he was talking about lighting is boring to talk about, but it's actually so fundamental. He wanted to create a warm, really inviting space over Steve's design. In addition, he shared there's some great moments in the show where we can really tailor the world, the lighting world, to get inside people's heads a little, create confines of their eternal world, then blow the space back out when we return to what is happening with the whole of the cast. So I'll be curious to see how he takes us inside the head of particular character. Costume designer Ren Ladasser says that since this is a modern production, if she's done her job, you won't realize the costumes are costumes, except for one scene in which it's very deliberate that they are. um, Rather, they'll feel like the clothes in which characters live. Nevertheless, the collaboration between her and actors began on her end with some strong thoughts about the direction she wanted to find for each character's look. I invite you to check out how she executed the following visions as you watch the play. Beatrice, cool. Watch her statement sweaters. Ben, effortless cool, sexy neutral. Hannah, grandpa core hip. Claudia, thrifted quirk. Danny, this is maybe my favorite. It's expensive to look this cheap. Alice, stylish, a different version of female or feminine. Sound designer and composer Brian Grimm shared that their overall target was sexy Game of Thrones. One of the concepts behind the production is old remixed with new. So they looked into, for instance, mixing some cello with some viola da gamba and experimented with combining hip hop and pieces from the early 17th century as an early proof of concept. More to come from Brian in a few minutes. Props director Jolie Sarajian completes a season with Forward, working in tandem with Steve and Brian on the kind of equipment that might appear in a studio, on an array of actor snacks and drinks, as we definitely need consumables in a break room, a host of books, their romance covers, and more. Intimacy director Amy Root returns to us after working with us first on Fights and Intimacy for our last production, Ironbound. Her job to this round, really to engage actors who had already been long-standing colleagues, friends, and or even partners on their process for the stage. How to tell the story of yearning, how to break down both the escalation of desire and to separate actor from character. What she's done is not to choreograph, but to facilitate and empower actors in conversation who are working on vulnerable material, no matter how close they already are off stage. Beyond our designers and directors, we were also graced with an assistant director and dramaturg for this production. More on dramaturgy, but before I'd like to give a special thanks to our assistant director, Shannon Coltrane. Shan is a local actor and friend of Forward who has also worked as an understudy for us. In fact, she's understudying Colleen on this production too. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our other understudies and covers. Scott Hayden covering Ben, Madeline O'Keefe covering Hannah and Alice, and Joe Mattias covering Claudio and Danny. All local actors, they do work which is often unsung. But as our understudy recently stepping into a performance of Gutenberg the Musical proved, necessary for the show to go on. Thanks for your work, everybody. So, behind the scenes, or inside the booth, rather, I'd like at this point to delve a little deeper into a few behind the scenes aspects of our process this round, as they've really taken key positions in this process, and that's dramaturgy and sound. Dina Vallone, dramaturg, has worked with Forward to support both this year and previous years' incarnations of Wisconsin Writes, our new play development festival. She is working on our main stage this year to midwife the birth of this new play. Now, a dramaturg's work may encompass research, continuity, representing the playwright in the room, considering the logic of a script's through line, continuity in a different way, character arcs, connecting the playwright's questions and vision with the director's interpretation, and more. I checked in with Deanie for some insight into the job of the dramaturg on Lady Disdain, a new play, brand new play, and she was happy to oblige. So here I'd like to give her some of her own words. Since Lauren was both remote and 6 hours ahead of us in London, a lot of my job was helping maintain lines of communication between her and what was happening in the room. Our greatest resource, believe it or not, was the humble Google Doc. We kept the script there, and I was able to drop questions, comments, and suggestions to Lauren based on the conversations that were happening in the room. She would look at them when she was able, making small changes, answering questions, etc. And the next day at rehearsal, I would be able to share that new information with Jen and the room. So that's a great example, she says, of one of the roles that a dramaturg can play, especially in a new play process. She also says, the show features several audiobook, quote, smut interstitials, end quote, which were really fun to develop. Jen, Lauren, and I brainstormed some of the possible romance genres that they could be, and Lauren went off and wrote about a half dozen to choose from. Our show focuses mostly on the romantasy subgenre, so we wanted these interstitials to represent other cornerstones of the genre, while also showing that romance subgenre are diverse and that there is something for everyone. So you may get a little bit more of that sports romance hopping in somewhere along the play. Deanie also says, I do research on all the shows I work on, from scouring historical documents to talking to cultural consultants to preparing in-room resources. It helps me better understand the world of the play and support the artists in the room as they bring the story to life. The research for this one was the hardest I've ever encountered. I had to read romance novels, attend a book festival, and listen to A Court of Thorns and Roses graphic audiobook, all expressly for research purposes. It was tough work, but as a dramaturg, I really do go the extra mile to support new plays. Thanks, Deanie. Speaking of those interstitials, sound designer and composer Brian Grimm has now worked with Forward on several of our productions. They have more to offer about the next step in the work that began with Lauren, Deanie, and Jen. Not only did they create music for the production, they also executed the vision of the interstitials with the actors in their own words. To me, the recording studio is a magical place. The outside world is completely blocked out, and everyone's focus is purely on sound. Whether my role is a performing musician, composer, sound designer, or audio engineer, or all at once, it is simply one of my favorite places to be. I've been so excited to work on this show, which takes place, quote, in the booth, end quote. One of the most fun parts of this sound design process they share has been recording actual voiceover material with the actors. We recorded those romantic novel audiobook excerpts that appear in the play, monster noises, smutty sound effects, actor warm up sounds, and much more. Sometimes we experimented using the space to our advantage. For one cue, for instance, I had an actor standing in the large tile bathroom of the dressing room, yelling into the walls to capture that huge, bright reverb of that particular space. And in a very meta way, I was recording the play's audio engineer, Claudio, saying the types of lines to the other actors that I was saying to him, like the classic, let's do one more take. Yeah, right. Or, okay, we're rolling. It was a blast editing all of this audio, Brian says. It had me giggling, chortling nonstop. From the sound booth to the stage, and the sound booth to the page, romance is in the air. On popular streaming series, in Madison, on a new roving bookmobile, on bestseller lists. But whether you're a fan or not, I bet you'll hear something juicy or new on stage in Lady Disdain. For those of you not already well-versed, I'd like to offer up some tropes and terms to whet your appetite. Now, if we were in person together, I would play a little game with you and ask you for examples of these, but I'm just going to drop some of these your way and have you think about where you've heard these kinds of plot lines before. So, the guarantee of a romance is that things are going to be okay in the end. So, it's all about the journey to get there. Some well-loved plot lines have been sorted under terms that offer romance fans quick access to the story they most like to hear. So here's one example. Enemies to lovers. Self-explanatory. Two people who loathe each other find their feelings turn inside out. Heated rivalry is an example of this one, as much ado is. Second chance. Also self-explanatory. Also describing Benedick and Beatrice, who have a history. But this one also goes back a long way. I'm going to drop an example of Jane Austen's Persuasion, about a couple who had been persuaded to give up their engagement many years ago, meet again, and as we all hope and wonder, will it work out this time? Another one, forced proximity. This is also a much ado and Lady Disdain trope. Two people who wouldn't otherwise cross paths end up in the same space, having to be in the same space. So what'll happen? Who's to say? Fake relationship. Now, think about all of those rom-coms in the movies wherein someone asks a friend to pretend to be a boyfriend or girlfriend to meet the parents, and what naturally ensues. So I've got a few others I'm going to drop your way, and I'd like you to think about it. Easy one first, forbidden love. An example of that one, maybe one from Shakespeare. Here's more. This one is courtesy of author Briar Black. Childhood sweetheart. Class divide. Damsel in distress. Disguise. Everyone sees it but you. It will never work. Love at first sight. Love potion. Marriage before romance. Matchmaker. Isn't there even a Jennifer Lopez? Is it Jennifer Lopez? Movie with oh no, I'm giving you answers now. I shouldn't give you answers. Here's some more. Office romance. Priest. Rags to riches. Revenge. Road trip. Will they or won't they? Working with the ex. There are a lot more where that came from. But with that, hopefully you're warmed up. As I prepare to send you to the theater, a few items of note. You may see when you're there a local romance bookseller in the lobby. They're here for more than half of the performances. Check out their offerings. There's room for everyone in the world of happy endings. A few romance fans also have offered up some authors to look for. Sarah J. Maas, some of whose romantasy inspired references in this play. Sherry Thomas, whom I hear is hard to find, but worth it for her historical romances. The ever popular Julia Quinn, whose series about the Bridgerton family is all over Netflix. The classic Danielle Steele, one of the top-selling authors on the planet. And Judith McNaught for a gateway drug into the genre. Who's your fave? One more acronym, a vocabulary word for you. If you hear anyone refer to an HEA at a talkback and you don't already know what that is, it's short for happily ever after. Something everyone deserves, something which may take work, actually, which probably will take work. Actually, take out the probably, which will take work. But something sure to please all, for each HEA is unique to each person who dreams of one. In conclusion, here's to love of every kind. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy Lady Disdain.